Alright, welcome to the Strange North channel. In this video, I'm going to compare the Saskatchewan cities of Moose Jaw and Prince Albert. Honestly, I'm not feeling that great today, but I had to get this video done. But I was actually looking forward to this one. A couple weeks ago, I posted a video where I compared the Alberta cities of Red Deer and Lethbridge. And I know and love the province of Saskatchewan very well, and so I thought it might be useful to compare the cities of Moose Jaw and Prince Albert in that province. Like Alberta, Saskatchewan is one of the fastest growing provinces in Canada right now. And of course, not everyone moving to Saskatchewan wants to live in Regina or Saskatoon. And so I thought it might be useful to people out there if I compared the next two biggest cities in that province. Moose Jaw and Prince Albert are roughly the same size. Moose Jaw has a 2024 population of about 35,000 and the population in Prince Albert is about 37,000. And of course, a lot of people know absolutely nothing about Moose Jaw or Prince Albert. And so I also thought that this video might be useful in terms of highlighting those two cities a bit. And so I'm going to compare Moose Jaw and Prince Albert in 10 categories. And I'm using the same categories as I did in my Red Deer versus Lethbridge video. And in each of these categories, I'm going to tell you in my opinion which city I think is a little bit better. Although again, I have allowed for ties because I think in some of the categories it's just a little bit too close to call. And I think this intro has been long enough, so I'm just going to jump right into the list. And the first category on the list at number 1 is topography. And what I mean by that is just the general area that surrounds each of these two cities. So the city of Moose Jaw is in the moist mixed grassland prairie ecozone, and this marks the northern extension of open grassland in the province. This area has a lot more water and vegetation than the drier southern grassland areas, for example the area around Swift Current, and Moose Jaw is also in the same ecozone as Saskatoon and Regina, so same relative vibe. And honestly, the area around Moose Jaw is just your typical prairie region. It doesn't really stand out and it's not very dynamic. Prince Albert, on the other hand, is a lot further north in the province, and it's in the boreal transition zone, which is more of a mix of farmland and forest. It's definitely more heavily wooded than the area around Moose Jaw, and it kind of reminds me of the area around Edmonton. In fact, the North Saskatchewan River, which cuts right through the middle of Edmonton, also flows through the city of Prince Albert. And I find that Saskatchewan in particular is really into its water culture. People really like getting out on lakes and rivers to do all sorts of water activities, everything from boating to fishing. And I think that Prince Albert in general has much quicker access to some of those popular wilderness areas, especially compared to Moose Jaw. And I just find the area around Prince Albert to be a lot more dynamic than Moose Jaw, not only because of the major river flowing through it, but this area just has a lot more hills and forests in general. And personally, I find the topography around Prince Albert to be a lot more interesting and dynamic than the area around Moose Jaw. And so in this category, I think that Prince Albert is the winner. Okay, the next category on my list is general weather. I don't want to throw too much information at you. I'm just going to give you general trends when you're comparing these two cities. So Moose Jaw has a mid-latitude cool steppe climate with a dry season, whereas Prince Albert has a warm summer continental / hemi-boreal climate with no dry season. And so the general weather patterns in these two cities are fairly similar, but you're going to find that overall it's a bit warmer in Moose Jaw and the monthly temperatures vary less in Moose Jaw than they do in Prince Albert. It's also a bit drier in Moose Jaw. Prince Albert gets more rain over the course of a year. And when I was comparing Red Deer and Lethbridge in my other video, I made note of the fact that Lethbridge in southern Alberta is incredibly windy, whereas Red Deer doesn't really have that problem. But you can't really say the same when you're comparing Moose Jaw and Prince Albert. Moose Jaw is a lot further south in the province, but it doesn't have the same wind problem as Lethbridge does. And so in this category, in my opinion, I think that Moose Jaw has the better weather, just because it's a little bit drier and warmer overall, but you're not going to find massive weather differences between the two cities. Okay, the number 3 category on this list is access to goods and services. And really a big part of this is how close these two cities are to other larger cities. Moose Jaw and Prince Albert are about the same size, and in terms of in-city amenities, they're very comparable. In each of these cities, you're going to find roughly the same level of shopping, city services, and amenities. But of course, when people are living in these smaller cities and towns, sometimes they need to get to a larger urban center for whatever reason. And in this category, I think that Moose Jaw is the winner, but only slightly. The closest city to Moose Jaw is Regina, and that's about a 49-minute drive away. And the closest major city to Prince Albert is Saskatoon, and that's about an hour and 24-minute drive. Now, when you're comparing Saskatoon and Regina, I think that Saskatoon offers a bit more in terms of amenities and goods and services, but Regina is also a major city, and so Moose Jaw is definitely a bit closer to a major city. And of course, Prince Albert is a little bit more isolated, being further north in the province, and Moose Jaw is actually located on Canada's main highway, the #1 Trans-Canada Highway. And so, for example, it's a lot closer to the cities of Calgary in Alberta and then Winnipeg in Manitoba. And of course, for people interested in regularly traveling to the United States, Moose Jaw is a lot closer to the US border. And so in terms of access to goods and services, I think that Moose Jaw is the winner in this category, but not by a massive margin. Okay, the number 4 category on my list is city transit. Both of these cities are under 40,000 people, and yet each of them have a very robust transit system to get people around the city. So the Moose Jaw Transit Service runs 4 fixed routes that run Monday to Friday, and they all converge on the downtown area. And then on top of that, they also have charter and paratransit services as well. But Prince Albert Transit actually runs 6 routes Monday to Saturday, and so they have more routes and more days in service. I also find that the Prince Albert Transit coverage is a little bit more comprehensive, and it gets a little bit further to the edges of the town compared to Moose Jaw. And so in my opinion, when you're comparing the two cities, Prince Albert has the better transit system, just because it offers more comprehensive coverage of the city, and it's also operational on Saturdays, which the transit system in Moose Jaw is not. Okay, the number 5 category on my list is post-secondary institutions, and in this category I had to declare a tie because each of these cities has surprisingly good post-secondary options. When you're talking about Moose Jaw, first off you have the Saskatchewan Polytechnic Palliser campus. Saskatchewan Polytechnic is a technical vocational school, as you may have guessed, and they have campuses across Saskatchewan, and their Palliser campus in Moose Jaw has an excellent reputation. Moose Jaw also has the NFTC, which is the NATO Flying Training Program, which is on the Canadian Forces base within the city. This is a very high-tech and comprehensive facility that trains military pilots, and in my opinion, this is one of the coolest post-secondary institutions in the province. And then Moose Jaw also has the Briarcrest College and Seminary, which is a trans-denominational Bible college with an excellent reputation. This school is actually located in the small town of Caronport, but it's usually included when you're talking about post-secondary institutions in Moose Jaw. And then when you're talking about Prince Albert, Saskatchewan Polytechnic also has a campus in Prince Albert. I don't think that campus has quite the same reputation as the one in Moose Jaw, but Saskatchewan Polytechnic overall just has a fantastic reputation, and it's a very popular place for students to get trained in Saskatchewan. Prince Albert also has a campus of the University of Saskatchewan. Now that school is based in Saskatoon, and it's the largest university in the province and one of the top post-secondary institutions in Canada. And so having a U of S campus in Prince Albert is a big perk when you're talking about schools within that city. And the U of S PA campus is a place where students can start and sometimes even complete their full degree in their chosen field. And of course, many students choose to start at this campus and then transfer to the U of S main campus in Saskatoon to finish their studies. And so again, in this category, personally, I think I have to declare a tie. These are pretty small cities, but I think that each of them has surprisingly excellent post-secondary options. Okay, the number 6 category on this list is just general walkability. And in this category, I think that Moose Jaw is the clear winner. To me, Moose Jaw is just the better city for walking around. I just think that the central downtown area of Moose Jaw is a lot more pleasant and vibrant than the one in Prince Albert. And I also think that Moose Jaw in particular has done an excellent job of preserving its old historic buildings. You may have heard of this, but Moose Jaw has this thing called the Moose Jaw Tunnels. And these tunnels were dug out many decades ago by Chinese immigrants who would hide out in these areas during times of anti-Chinese sentiments. These tunnels were later allegedly used by American mafia members, including Al Capone, when they were having troubles with law enforcement south of the border. There are these legends of the American mafia using different facilities in the city of Moose Jaw to hide out. And I'm actually going to be doing a video on this topic sometime over the summer, but I want to take personal video footage of the tunnels. I've been to Moose Jaw a ton, I've just never actually taken video of the Moose Jaw tunnels. But that's just one way in which Moose Jaw has done a good job of preserving its history, and I just find that the city in general has a lot more old historic buildings compared to Prince Albert. I also love the Crescent Park area in central Moose Jaw. This has the Moose Jaw Museum and Art Gallery, which is an excellent facility. And then this area also has the Temple Gardens Hotel and Spa, which is a geothermal spa, and honestly, in my opinion, the best place to visit in Moose Jaw. And honestly, I just find Moose Jaw to be a lot more clean and pleasant when you're walking around compared to Prince Albert. Of course, Prince Albert does have a central downtown area, but the downtown in Prince Albert is not nearly as vibrant and walkable as Moose Jaw's. Prince Albert does have a beautiful river area, but I find that most of Prince Albert doesn't really have quick access to the river. For example, the city of Edmonton also has the North Saskatchewan River flowing flowing through it. But in that case, the river flows right through the middle of the city, and so a lot of Edmonton has fairly quick access to the river valley. Whereas in Prince Albert, most of the city is actually located to the south of the river. Very little of Prince Albert is actually located on the north side of the river. And so I find that in Prince Albert, although it does have a beautiful river, not a lot of the city really has quick access to it. And of course, these aren't massive cities with a ton of eclectic neighborhoods to choose from, even compared to Saskatoon, for example. Each of these cities has a downtown core surrounded by some mature neighborhoods, and then of course newer suburban developments on the outskirts. But I just find that overall Moose Jaw is a lot more walkable than Prince Albert, and it just has a lot more vibrancy and charm in general. And so in this category, I think that Moose Jaw is the clear winner. Okay, the number 7 category on my list is general sports culture. And in this category, I think that Prince Albert is the winner. I think that the city is just a little bit more into sports in general when you compare it to Moose Jaw, but it also has stronger sports teams as well. The major sports team in Prince Albert is the Prince Albert Raiders, who are a major junior hockey team in the Western Hockey League. And I just find that they have a ton of popularity and very strong fans throughout the province. You also have the popular Prince Albert Mintos, who play in the Saskatchewan Male Under-18 AAA Hockey League, and they have a very strong fan base in the city as well. And then Moose Jaw also has a team in the Western Hockey League, the Moose Jaw Warriors, but they're just not as strong a team within the province. They've actually never won a championship, whereas the Prince Albert Raiders have actually won the championship twice. Moose Jaw does have the Miller Express. This is a fairly popular baseball team in the Western Canadian Baseball League, and Prince Albert doesn't really have a baseball team quite as strong. And then Moose Jaw in the past has had some fairly popular minor hockey teams like the Moose Jaw Canucks and the Moose Jaw Maroons, and so Moose Jaw definitely has an interesting sports history. But I think when you're comparing Prince Albert with Moose Jaw, Prince Albert is the clear winner when you're talking about general sports culture. Okay, the number 8 category on my list is general arts culture. Before I examine these cities closer, I always assumed that Moose Jaw would have had the better arts culture, just because I find it to be a little bit more artistic and pleasant in general, and I find Prince Albert can be a little bit more rough and blue collar, although I'm speaking in generalizations and that doesn't always apply. But honestly, each of these cities have a fairly robust art scene and they're quite comparable. So when you're talking about Moose Jaw, first off, you have the beautiful Moose Jaw Museum and Art Gallery. This is located in the beautiful Crescent Park area, and this is just a beautiful little gallery, especially given the size of the city. Moose Jaw also has the prominent Moose Jaw Cultural Center, and this is just a year-round center for all sorts of artistic endeavors. And this facility also contains the May Wilson Theatre, which is the main theatre in Moose Jaw for theatrical productions. And then in Moose Jaw, you also have the Yvette Moore Gallery, and this is a beautiful art gallery in a historic building in downtown Moose Jaw. And besides the facilities I just mentioned, it also has a number of events and festivals throughout the year. But then when you're looking at Prince Albert, it too also has excellent artistic facilities. First off, you have the Margot Fournier Art Center, which is also located in a beautiful historic building of that city's downtown core. Prince Albert also has the E.A. Rawlinson Center for the Arts, and honestly, this theater facility is much better than the one in Moose Jaw. And Prince Albert also has the Mann Art Gallery, and really for the size of Prince Albert, this is a very impressive art gallery, and it does a lot to contribute to the arts culture of that city. And again, like Moose Jaw, Prince Albert also has numerous events and festivals dealing with the arts throughout the year. And I was a little bit surprised at my conclusion, but when you're looking at the arts culture within each of these cities, I think they're very comparable. And so in this category, I'm going to have to declare another tie. Okay, the number 9 category on this list is crime and social disorder. And I'm not going to throw too much information at you, but in this category, Moose Jaw is the clear winner, because for a long time now, Prince Albert has had much higher crime and open social disorder compared to Moose Jaw. In fact, Prince Albert often has one of the highest overall crime rates in the country. Just to give you one of many examples, I found a 2023 article saying that Prince Albert had the 3rd highest crime rate in Canada. Within Saskatchewan, cities like Prince Albert and North Battleford have had a pretty rough reputation for a long time when you're talking about general crime trends. And Prince Albert has also just had a lot more gang activity than the city of Moose Jaw. And even just in terms of hanging out and walking around in these two cities, you are going to notice a bit more open social disorder in Prince Albert compared to Moose Jaw. And obviously, crime statistics don't tell the whole story of the city, and Prince Albert has a ton to offer its residents. But honestly, when you're comparing the two cities and talking about crime and social disorder, the vast majority of people in Saskatchewan will tell you that it's a lot safer in Moose Jaw compared to Prince Albert. And having personally spent a bunch of time in each of these two cities and looking at the crime stats, I don't think there's any argument that in this category, Moose Jaw is the clear winner, just because it's a lot cleaner and safer than Prince Albert. And that brings us to the final category on this list, and that is housing and rental prices. Again, I'm not going to throw too much information at you. There are specific channels that deal with real estate within Saskatchewan, but I'm just going to give you some average numbers. So according to the Prince Albert Daily Herald, the average 2023 home price in Prince Albert was about $260,000. And then according to Moose Jaw Today, the average home price in 2023 in that city was about $233,000. And so overall, property prices are just a bit more affordable in Moose Jaw compared to Prince Albert. And then when you're talking about average rental prices for 2023. According to the Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation, the average rental in Prince Albert was about $989. And then the average rental in Moose Jaw was about $1,013. So rentals were a little bit cheaper in Prince Albert compared to Moose Jaw. And so with higher rental prices in Moose Jaw, but higher properties in Prince Albert, both cities are very comparable, but I think that in this category, I have to declare another tie. Alright, so that concludes my list of comparisons. And if you've been following along, then you already know that according to my own opinions, I consider Moose Jaw to be slightly better than Prince Albert. In 3 of these categories, I had to declare a tie between the 2 cities. In another 3 categories, I think that Prince Albert is the better city. But in 4 categories, in my opinion, I think that Moose Jaw is the clear winner. So if you add this all up, in my opinion, I think that Moose Jaw is a slightly better city than Prince Albert. And honestly, that is my opinion. I know Saskatchewan very well, and I've spent a lot of time in each of these cities. And to me personally, Moose Jaw just has a bit of a better vibe overall than Prince Albert. And if you've watched my other Saskatchewan videos, you're probably aware that I definitely prefer Saskatoon over Regina, and so I'm not afraid to call favorites. And I think when you're comparing Moose Jaw and Prince Albert, Moose Jaw is a little bit better. I hope you found that interesting and informative, and I look forward to doing more city comparison videos down the road. I think in a few weeks I'm going to compare the Alberta mountain towns of Jasper and Banff in another video. And if you'd like to watch more of my content in general, please consider subscribing to my channel. I upload at least 1 new video per week. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you next time on the Strange North channel.